Dr. Destruction's Big Top Radio broadcast. After midnight, WLIP.
Late at night, the doctors on the TV to give them a fright. The movies are cheesy and so the host. Look out, honey, here's 13 ghosts. And Dr. Destruction's Crimson Theater, Bill the Monster, Eater. And Dr. Destruction's Crimson Theater, Dr. Destruction's Crimson Theater, ghoulies, come on! Showtime, ghoulies.
It is indeed showtime, ghoulies. We are back Monday morning. Here we go. What a weekend. Wow, Big Top Radio broadcast coming at you live. Always something going on, huh? Good weekend, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a fabulous weekend. A great way to kick off my week of finals. But it was a good weekend.
If you didn't come to the port last night, you really, really missed out. But we're going to play some Fiendish Phantoms at the end of the night, at the end of the overnight. How do we say that? It's night, but it's morning.
No.
It's overnight? Okay. Anyway, yes, we're coming at you live, and we've always got a great guest on the Big Top. All right, very good, and we have our very special guest with us tonight, Michael McCormack. Are you there?
I'm here. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Hanging in there. Continuing the overnight, you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, great.
So you're still doing the music and the scores and everything?
Oh yeah. I've had a month off here. I lost my mom. So
yeah, we're very sorry. Very sorry about that. It was
won't go.
You were scheduled to be on the show, I know, like right just before that, and I'm very sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about a month ago, and just been kind of sorting that out. That's life changing for sure, but
absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Get that one out of the way. But my mom always liked hearing me come on your show. She enjoyed listening to a few of them. And
that's an honor. That was an honor. Yeah, that's great.
So I haven't really felt like doing anything like this, but I think it's good for me. It's kind of I'm happy you asked me.
Yeah,
and she'd want me to jump on here and
it was just
play some tunes.
yeah, talk about some things. It was just funny. I don't know. I had a late night, but that didn't not as late as being in here, but we were playing and everything at the bar, and for some reason this morning, I don't know if I just thought of it or someone posted something about the 77 Kong movie. So I thought about you right away, and then I've been it's just interesting stuff about that. Like they thought that they were going to use the life-size model for more of the shots than they actually did, and Rick Baker really pretty much did the whole thing in the gorilla suit, but they didn't really. It seems like they didn't want people to know that's how they were doing it at first.
Yeah, that's covered in the documentary that we did over the summer, Long Live the King, which
Long Live the King,
which I did the music for, and I have a soundtrack out if anybody's interested. But you can actually watch the documentary right now. It's on Amazon. I think it's on Amazon Prime right now, so you can stream it and kill an hour and 11 minutes.
Wow, it was interesting what I learned about just the for them to do the face. That it was what was it, like 6 different masks with different armatures and pulleys and that they had to do to get all that emotion. And they really, I was going over it, and I really have to commend them for the way they did that. They really conveyed a lot of emotion in those masks with the Kong. I think I've seen the 2 recent ones now, and it makes me appreciate that one from the 70s so much more.
Yeah, it's an underappreciated classic. I actually got to see it. The guy that took my spot there a month ago, Jake Parker, who you talked to, the guy who made the short film Hag. I think if you remember him.
Yeah, yes, we do.
You know, guess how I met him? I was at a rare screening of the '76 King Kong about 6 weeks ago, and me and my wife were sitting there, and we hit it off with Jake, and so I mean, it was shown at a theater here in Nashville, and it was packed, and there were people in there laughing and just having a good time. And I was amazed, really, because, you look at online blogs and whatnot, and, of course, every opinion is going to get out there on the Internet, but people really do. I guess maybe a cult following, or people of that generation really do enjoy it. And it's got a lot more to it. It's not just, it's not childish garbage. There's a lot of craft that went into that movie.
Right.
If you think about it.
Yeah. I'm just looked it up, and it says that it's was actually 76, or was it? It didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
It was 76, huh?
It came out December 17th, I want to say, or 14th, 1976. And
I remember it was December. I do remember that, and I also remember that I was in a cartooning class in, I think, my first year in high school. And Robert Anderson, who was the teacher of the cartooning class, everybody was geeked about the new Kong, and he said he had one of the classes was dedicated. He made us watch the original, even though a lot of us, of course, had seen it. But he wanted to make sure everybody in the classroom saw the original before they saw the new one.
Right. Well, sequels were not, in vogue back then like they are now,
right.
or remakes.
Remakes.
Something like King Kong was not, it was definitely frowned upon. But also, you had the 33 King Kong was starting to screen in a lot of theaters in the 70s, and
right.
Of course it was on TV quite a bit. And it's funny, in the documentary we talk about how on Thanksgivings on WOR, Channel 9 in New York, which was a popular cable channel at the time, they would show on every Thanksgiving, they would show King Kong, Son of Kong, and Mighty Joe Young on Thanksgiving. And then the day after Thanksgiving, you'd like this, they'd show a variety of Godzilla movies. And man, those 2 days were great.
Yeah,
that was. I can't get much better than that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. When they did those things, it was really fantastic. But it's interesting you point out those early films like there was Son of Kong and then Mighty Joe Young. But really, what was cool about the studio, instead of making a sequel where the original Kong survived or some kind of contrived story like that, they actually kind of they were doing the same thing and sort of making sequels, but they without being the same character. I mean, Son of Kong, was a direct sequel, and then Mighty Joe Young. So they didn't even think of remaking or doing a sequel. Like King Kong Lives, what did they put a fake heart in him or something? The '86 one, that was
right.
That one I was a little bit of a stretch.
That one, that's good on a very boring day, rainy day. But I got to say, as a composer, I really like the score by John Scott to King Kong Lives, and I tried to do kind of it's a very romantic score, and I tried to do kind of a semi tribute to that when we did the Long Live the King documentary. In fact, as you watch the Long Live the King documentary, what I tried to do is emulate the musical styles and sensibilities of the composers going through those films, like Max Steiner for 33, John Barry for the 76, Akafube for Kong vs. Godzilla, and James Newton Howard for the 2005 Kong. And so you can kind of hear that as you listen to the score, and it kind of takes you on a little trip. If you really know your King Kong movies, I think you'll get a kind of a kick out of hearing that soundtrack.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And really, the one thing that's kind of interesting historically and seems to be a great part of those movies from the very beginning, and especially with the original Kong. I mean, that was like just the beginning of them being able to put scores in talkies. And I think they had so much action, I think they got away with a little bit there because there wasn't a lot of dialogue while there was music. But the original score for the original Kong is fantastic. The one from 76 or 77, or no, it's 76. That one's another one that's fantastic. And just amazing. Just amazing.
The 76 one's got a nice brooding quality. It gives you a sense of doom for Kong. That I think has got. When I went to see the Jackson one, we went for Christmas, and I was kind of like, I had that sense of doom because I remember the 77 one, and I know how it ends. And then Peter Jackson really did not go that route at all. He kept it more like the 30s one where it wasn't emphasized so much as in the 76 one. It was shocking to see the ending then. It was, I reviewed it today and I was like, man, that was really bad, back then. It was shocking even to the point, but other elements of the film, we're talking 76, and I'm thinking about where my age was at. A lot of things were, I think about how young I was when I saw it, and a lot of things were just clear narratives there that I already I was understanding. They were striking a chord with me was, the commercialization of the oil people finding him on the island and then, taking him away. And then I just remember that, I just thought that scene with him where they have the giant gas pump that they unveil him and then he's got the crown on his head. I said, that's so degrading. I thought that was just so terrible. It's what the movie wants you to do. That's just being effective. Right. And but I really even when I saw it then, I thought, wow. And then of course, spoiler alert. Jessica Lange, who I loved in the movie, by the way. At the end, she don't want him to kill him, and she's like trying to help him, and she likes him, and then by the end though, once he passes, and then they're all like flashing the cameras, and all of a sudden she kind of gets into like, oh, this is my big break, and then like isn't Bridges even kind of like doesn't, because they're separated by the crowd and all that. I just thought, wow, that was a great. It's got like a tragic ending where she's actually bawling at the end of it, but she's finally got the fame that she wanted, but at a huge personal cost.
Yeah, but she's going for it though. She turns heel.
And the thing about the 76 Kong is, like, if you think about it, with that coming out in December 76, you had Star Wars about 6 months later. So really, that Kong movie really marks the end of the traditionally made, old school blockbuster, Hollywood blockbuster, where they use, mechanical hands and mechanical apes and men in suits and heavy use of blue screen and miniatures. But when you think about all those different factors, like you were saying, I mean, like you watch the last two Kong movies, it's CGI, and you know that. And I particularly didn't really care for Skull Island.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that because I'm going to tell you what happened. It was a weekend. I had I didn't have to do a show or play a gig. I mean. And I didn't have to come here. And I was like, okay, it's Saturday, monster movie night, and I'm gonna watch it finally. And I got it, and I turned it off halfway, and I was like, I can't even watch the rest of this. And and ironically, it just happened to have the Peter Jackson one was on, and I don't know why I saw it in the theater, and I don't know why I have a better memory of it, but it was on a TV at the local pub. So I didn't really hear the soundtrack, but I'm just watching the action, and I couldn't believe how cartoony and how like everything's just moving too fast. It's moving too fast. I mean, they're just something simple like them coming off the ship offshore into the island. It seemed like just was the pacing. I didn't like the pacing, and with both films, it's like I don't know. There's an awkwardness to people walking in front of a green screen, and no matter how high production that CGI is, I can't get over it. It's really it's sort of blocking me from being able to enjoy the film, and why I'm but then again, you and I, we probably look at a movie much more different than other people as far as effects and how they're pulled off, and we know how the game works. And the
kids need to stay off my yard. but I mean, no, but it's the another thing when I think of the '76 Kong is the cinematography, and just seeing it on the big screen, like a huge wide screen like we did, the cinematography really stuck out. And I mean, it's epically shot. It's almost looks like a David Lean movie in places, like David Lean, who did Lawrence of Arabia, Dr. Zhivago, that kind of like old school epic type cinema. Where now everything, you might have a good shot, you might have some exciting sequences, but everything in these last two Kong movies is going through a computer. And being treated, and a lot of modern movies nowadays, I can't stand. They're all like the recent James Bond movies. Even they're all the same color every shot. They render them with a certain filter, and it all looks the same color the whole movie. And I guess they think that's continuity, but it takes a lot away from the various aspects of the movie as it unfolds. It's just this. Have you ever noticed that? Like, you'll watch a movie like a movie nowadays, and they've got this color filter on them.
Right. And there was some other movies I think I saw, Don't Breathe, and another one I can't remember what it was, but they were using that black and orange palette like they used in the Trick or Treat movie, which was really good for that movie, but I wasn't seeing that for some of the other stuff because it didn't look natural to me.
Right. But like a movie, if you're a photographer and you had a nice camera and you went out and you took some nice pictures, or say Lilith has a modeling spread and she's got all these different pictures. As you're going through that photo log, you wouldn't want all the pictures to be the same color. You want a variation. You want different styles. You want it to,
especially
jump out at you in different ways.
And that's like building a portfolio. You never want more than two pictures that look similar. You want very different images of different coloring, different lighting techniques. Having that same tone throughout an entire film, while it may at times artistically construe something like blue is the warmest color as an example, not a horror film obviously, but a film where they use the color blue throughout the film, but you use it sparingly. You don't do every single scene tinted in the exact same color with the exact same lighting.
Right. Exactly. So cinematography and lighting and all those kind of things kind of get robbed, when movies have gone that direction. And, so I just like looking at an old school movie like 76 Kong, look at an actress that's as lovely as Jessica Lange is, and I don't really see many actresses like that these days in the movie.
She got a lot of criticism, though, when that movie came out for her acting. It was almost like it could have destroyed her career. For some reason, I don't know, maybe it's just the way that character's portrayed, but there is some kind of cheesy aspects to that, and I noticed that they did sort of the same thing with the Jackson Kong, where she was the girls dancing for Kong and whatnot. I'm thinking there was none of that in 1931. She was horrified. There was no like that. They try to build on almost
the
like
one. I will say my only criticism of the 33 Kong is I guess it might be the audio mix more than anything, but the screams are cranked in the audio mix. And after a while, I mean, she is terrified the whole time, but she's like screaming so much.
Well, they were still figuring out how to do sound by that point. Still, I think that's another reason the score was. They finally were able to put that fantastic score into that movie, And there's just a look
Right.
with that old school,
Max Steiner.
you know, that old school animation. You know, it was really like there was a magic there to those films, and it's a time, I think you got to remember. I think really they were probably trying harder than most have to try now. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, for one, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of technology went into the emotions and faces of the '76 Kong. And whatnot, but it still came down to Rick Baker in a gorilla suit, so it's not too far away from King Kong versus Godzilla, but that just shows you that suit motion thing works.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm cool. I like Godzilla movies nowadays. I mean, I know the last one was enhanced with I think they did the CGI on Shin Godzilla, but I was actually kind of disappointed about that, and I hope they go back to a suit. And I don't know what they're doing with this next American Godzilla, if we even care.
Oh, you joining my wagon now? Or were you always on that one? I heard that they suggested that they're gonna be using some practical effects. Shin Godzilla had like a working model. Yeah, that they had built. They didn't use it for anything, and it looked really good. And they didn't use it. But Shin Godzilla pulled it off a little bit better. I think they had the grips on the. They had the reins on the CGI. The director, he was controlling the CGI. It wasn't the other way around in Shin Godzilla. And there's a lot of really good stuff that happens in that film as far as the monster's arrival and building the character and of the monster at the same time that it's introducing you to the people is simultaneous, and that just really worked. I think a lot could be learned, but it seems like the people making the new American Godzilla movies never pay any attention to what's really making the Japanese ones tick, especially the later ones.
This last one has such a vitality about it, or a kinetic energy. Like, I mean, people are running nonstop and doing this, and a lot of it's in a boring environment. But the fact that they're doing it in such an urgent way, where as you look at the 2014 Godzilla, you had I believe his name was Aaron Taylor Johnson was the actor. You know, everyone went to see it thinking, oh great, Bryan Cranston, the Breaking Bad dude's going to be in a Godzilla movie, and then, they're zipping him up 30 minutes in, and we're left with Aaron Taylor Johnson doing the modern day acting technique of furrowing his brow, and just, walking real slow and helping people, little kids and stuff, and it's just like, come on.
Yeah.
If you were in that situation and there's a giant monster, you'd be doing more like they were doing in the Shin Godzilla, and like running and frantically and trying to get, something done. But that 2014 one was just so slow, and I don't remember the music from that hardly at all.
It wasn't very memorable. Lilith?
Oh, you were talking kind of a little bit, you mentioned, this is back a bit, but the mythos and such, and American translations of films. I thought it was really interesting. I'm considering taking on a philosophy minor, and my friend's in philosophy right now as a major. And his contemporary moral issues class was discussing Godzilla and all of the implications socially in Japan that the Godzilla films had as an actual college topic, because there's so much that goes into the mythos and the social context of the character, and it influences a culture so much, and yet we here in America can't seem to grasp that when we make a film.
Right. Well, with the Godzilla film, yes.
Yeah. There's been other successful films translations of films from Japan. There's been many successful translations, but for some reason the Godzilla films we just don't seem to do as well with.
Yeah. And now we're going to have to hold that thought. I'm over on my first break time. So you gonna stick with us?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Always
so
great
much.
having you on. We'll be back with Michael McCormack.
Thanks.
And more talk about film scores, and we'll get back to King Kong a little bit. There's some interesting points I want to ask him about.
WLIP.
We are back on Dr. Destruction's Big Top radio broadcast, and we have Michael McCormack. He's on the line with us. How you doing?
I'm doing better than you are. I heard the weather report for...
Yeah, that's a little rough. It's a little rough out there.
Yeah, by the way, today, Lilith, is the anniversary of getting stuck in the parking lot last year. Remember that big snowstorm? It was a year ago yesterday.
Don't even remind me of that.
Oh boy, was that. Anyway, on the happier topics, and we kind of got into the realm of Shin Godzilla and the good work they did then, and we kind of kicked it off by talking about the 76 Kong, which you've been involved with stories on that, and we've certainly enjoyed talking about it tonight. And back to sort of the fact that already the studio seemed they wanted everyone to think it was the 40-foot tall model, and that kind of looks a little stiff. I don't know how they thought that was going to work at all, to tell you the truth, and that they kind of wanted to downplay the guy in the gorilla suit shtick, which actually worked really well because Rick Baker, that kind of helped his career a lot, didn't it? But I wonder.
I was just going to say it did, but he wasn't very happy with the lack of acclaim that he got for that. I mean, that 76 Kong movie actually won an Oscar for special effects, but it didn't go to Rick Baker. He didn't even get one.
Right.
It went to the guys that built that robot.
Yeah, well, and that's a travesty, I suppose, in a way.
But they were trying to emulate the success that Spielberg, of course, had with Jaws and building that robot, and all the press that the mechanical shark from Jaws got. Dino De Laurentiis thought, well, hey, I guess that's the thing to do, and we want to make a bigger movie than Jaws. So anyway, as they made that movie was announced in December 1975, and it was announced to be released a year later. Well, if you think about it, that's just 1 year from inception to being in the theater.
Right.
And the fact that they got as much, even that thing to stand for the 2 or 3 scenes where they show it, is actually a miracle. And that they even worked out Rick Baker's involvement so well. But
he was pretty young, too. He was pretty young. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he was in his 20s.
Yeah.
But they had a competition, basically, and the producer was like, okay, we got this Rick Baker guy who seems to be the new thing, so you go and make your suit. And then he got Carlo Rambaldi, who actually, went on to do Close Encounters and E.T., building the aliens for that. So, I mean, he's not, this guy's no slouch either. And he told him, he's like, okay, go build a Kong. So both of these guys went to work. Of course, they didn't really agree on what Kong was going to look like. So there's not a lot of continuity between the suit and the robot. But they basically battled it out, and in the end, it ended up going to Rick Baker because he was what he was doing works more than that robot.
Yeah, exactly. I was just wondering, since they already, they were kind of embarrassed about the Kong suit thing. Do you think that might have been the reason that we didn't get Kong fighting a Tyrannosaurus, because maybe the Tyrannosaurus costume thing would have looked too much like perhaps a Toho film?
It could have. I mean, the snake that they ended up using wasn't much better.
Right.
But I think it would be more difficult to pull off. And again, given the time, it wasn't a question of money, because they spent $24 million making that movie. So anything goes there, but I think they were just kind of on an assembly line. Let's get this, and then go do this, and they didn't really have much time. Another unique thing about the 76 Kong, and this might be another reason why you're not seeing dinosaurs, is it's the only version of the original King Kong story that takes place in, at that time, a modern era. So it's totally taken out of that world of the 30s, which when I watched the 33 Kong, for some reason, I guess because it's, almost 100 years old, coming up here before we know it. But it's such an older movie, 80 years anyway. I don't know, I seem to accept that. Plus it's black and white, the stop motion works. and I can accept that. But in something at that time in the 70s, I just don't see them pulling that off, like with dinosaurs. And actually, I don't think it would suit the story, like you were saying, with the environmental aspect and the corporate intrigue and all that.
Well, the other thing that when I watch it now, of course, and with many films, the Twin Towers are on the skyline of New York. But this one, he's actually climbing the Twin Towers. And the director, John Guillermin, am I saying that right?
Guillermin, yeah.
He had just done the Towering Inferno before this movie, didn't he? So that's kind of, I don't know. I mean, is that, somebody, a conspiracy theorist would say that this is all some kind of a signals to insiders, but it is.
You might want to call the guy before your show.
What's that?
You might want to call the guy before your show and ask him.
Which guy?
It's the conspiracy.
I think there's a conspiracy show.
The conspiracy. Yeah, I've caught that. I can draw my own.
Give him a call.
Oh, I'll tell you, I got a guy right here in town that I would like to call. I'd like to get him on my show, and he's been an old friend of mine for many years. Was introduced to me as a vampire, and I later found out he's a mad scientist. But he is a wealth of knowledge on subjects like this. And those kind of, conspiracy theories. I heard it all from him before I ever tuned in to anything on the radio. But it's just kind of, there's an dark ironic connection there. And even watching, again, like we spoke earlier, between the music and the ending of the film, there's this, sense of dread and doom in the movie. And now you add the Twin Tower factor in there. Just seeing those buildings, is one thing. Seeing them now in the 76 Kong, it makes the whole situation even more uncomfortable for me a bit.
Yeah, you could say that. In fact, when we were at the movies and we saw it, this older lady walked up front and started talking to someone else, and I heard her say, me and Jake heard her say, I can't believe they put the Twin Towers in that. And we just looked at each other and rolled our eyes, kind of, because like anyone would have known that was going to happen. Or at least we certainly hope not.
This was something she said post 9/11.
After the movie, just 6 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
This woman was complaining that they used the World Trade Center, it was.
Like they knew, right? Yeah.
Right.
She didn't get it.
But we just kind of rolled our eyes at that one. But yeah, it just adds to the tragedy of it, I guess. But even before that, that ending used to always kind of get me when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
When that heartbeat's going.
I think that's
running down.
Because, Peter Jackson didn't get that. He didn't go that route at all. He did it very much like it was a 1931 film, so he kind of avoided all the gore.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how the other one, Skull Island, ended, so I'm assuming he lived to fight Godzilla, I think.
King Kong was in Skull Island, I think really just a few times. And all the other Kong movies, he becomes the lead actor in the movie. But it seemed to me like he was more of a supporting player to, Tom C. Reilly and Samuel Jackson.
And them guys were, that was John Goodman. What a tiring performance that was. And the CGI it was just making me mad. I thought, I got to turn this off or I'm going to throw something through the TV. I'm serious. And here I was thinking, okay, I know I'm going to have to accept a certain amount of this CGI thing that I don't like. I'm already preparing myself for that. But then it just was so bad that I just couldn't finish watching it. As a matter of fact, I turned the TV off and played a bunch of vinyl for the rest of the night.
There you go.
I didn't want to watch TV after that.
I was looking through a stack of movies trying to find something to watch, and I was like, oh yeah, I got that. Ugh. Just put it back down.
Yeah.
But, if there's anyone listening that does like King Kong, like collect stuff, you know, it's weird people don't really buy music anymore. I'm noticing it's all streaming, or you know, or collectors are collecting LPs like you're probably doing and I still do. But I've got a CD of my soundtrack for Long Live the King. I don't know if you want to play. I was talking earlier about how it kind of goes through all the kind of the phases of Kong on the big screen and all the different music.
Right.
And,
Well,
such a sampler over if you want to give that a try.
Well, yeah, but can we do can you stick with us through the news break? Because we're coming up on the hard break. I'd rather kind of get into the music in the other half so we got enough time.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking time wise on that, so we can do a lot of the music in the next hour. I'd really like to do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I'd like to play some tunes.
But you're talking about the collecting. I actually did find a vinyl of the score for the 77 Kong or 76 Kong. I have it. The sleeve isn't in such good shape, but it was still cool to find that. And that was really a movie. Like you said, this was like the second movie after this blockbuster era that Jaws ushered in, that really, I mean, a lot of people that already were in the toy business making rubber sharks or selling the shark jaws or anything with the shark on it, that was gold mine for a bunch of people that had no connection to the movie whatsoever. Anybody that had a book on sharks,
right.
They all cashed in. They cashed in as well as the film company did. And King Kong didn't miss a beat with that because they had what was there, 4 different glasses you could get at one of the fast food chains.
Right.
And
right. Burger Chef.
Yeah. Burger Chef. Yep. We had a Burger Chef right by my house.
Somebody put the commercial on YouTube if you look around for it.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. But yeah, I've got those actually. I even pull them out sometimes when I've got company and we drink out of it. Have some, Jack Daniels out of there.
There you go.
King Kong cups.
But I mean, they had different. They had the poster of him on the top of the Trade Center, and then they had like other variations of sort of the same kind of stylized art with the subway train and whatnot. But that was and even at my age back then, I was noticing this marketing thing happening, along with films. I mean, that's really when that all started happening.
That movie poster by John Berkey. I mean, that was John Berkey actually went on to do the Star Trek the Motion Picture poster, and he did like the B sheet for Star Wars. And the Black Hole, I think he even did one for that. But like he is a really awesome artist. And that poster, that was pretty iconic there for a while.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it still is. I mean, of course, the Trade Centers is in there. Of course, in the film, he wasn't able to put one foot on each one. But it's still a great poster. And the funny thing about it is there was a neighbor on the corner house of my parents' block, and he wanted me to paint that on a shed on his side, paint that mural on a shed on his garage. And I did that, and of course I had to have Godzilla kind of in the background behind one of the buildings. And anyway, that became like the big talk of the neighborhood for years. I got a picture. It made the Kenosha news. It was like,
nice.
And I
may hire you. You can come out here and paint that on my house.
There you go. I mean, I'm not saying it could hold a candle to the original. That's for sure. But
do you remember the Godzilla versus Megalon poster?
I was going to bring that up. That this movie was so iconic, they had to put Godzilla and Megalon on the top of the Twin Towers, and that movie didn't even take place in Japan. That just shows you.
That looks cool.
Who released Godzilla versus Megalon in America? Anyway, it was probably some fly-by-night company. I mean,
what was that guy's name? Jack something.
And then and then they skipped. You never got to see Gigan. It was, for me, it was always a matter of seeing. You'd see the latest Godzilla movie would have an article in Famous Monsters and that they were making it, and you knew it's going to take years for it to finally get to America. And actually, what was interesting is they had the Godzilla versus the Mechagodzilla, which is what they called it, I'm pretty sure, in the Famous Monsters magazine, and we knew we had to wait. anyway, by the time the thing finally gets released in a theater here in my hometown, it's called Godzilla versus the Bionic Monster, and I'm sure that film was already being made before the $6 Million Man was a thing, But
right.
I was happy to see it anyway. Don't get me wrong. Godzilla versus Gigan never came. That never came to a theater. I never saw that. It never came out. But you there, Michael? Michael? I think we lost Michael.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can. We're shorting
weird.
out, but another reference to famous monsters. I think it was my very first Famous Monsters magazine that I got. Never knew it existed. I started, paying attention to, magazine stores and started getting into horror comics, and I stumbled upon I think it's the 100th anniversary issue, and that's where I opened up the pages, and I'm like, wait a minute. Who's this Rick Baker guy? Wait a minute. How's he making all these cool masks? What was he talking about? Ovens and latex. What is this? And at the time, Rick Baker, his hair, and he was really, really young then. And I thought, this young guy's doing all this, and he kind of looks like David Cassidy in a sort of way. And I'm like, wow. About Rick Baker. And I got my introduction to him, and he was very young, and I think it was talking about his Octoman movie. Is that what that's called? With that?
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, and that's how I got introduced to Rick Baker. So he still looked pretty young. I was watching some footage today of him talking about doing the Kong part, and he pretty much He
actually. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I mean he pretty much went unrecognized, like we talked about, but.
He actually showed up. They had a screening in L.A. A guy that runs a Kong 76 fan page, Jim Avey. I think he helped set this up. And it was about a year. It was on 76. So it was the 30th anniversary. So yeah, it was about a year ago. And Rick Baker showed up. It's on YouTube. It lasts like about an hour, and him and the living. Participants, not the big stars, but a lot of people showed up. Jack O'Halloran, and anyway, they had Rick Baker, chatting about being in the suit and everything. You got to check that out. It's on YouTube if you search it, like King Kong 30th anniversary. Will probably pop up.
I'll have to check it out because he kind of, like you said, he didn't get the.
Oh wait, I'm sorry, 40th anniversry. 40th anniversary.
Oh, now
wow.
Why'd you have to say that?
Ow.
I feel my back hurts more now. But,
yeah.
Anyway, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
You
just faded for a minute. But I was going to say, then Rick Baker did go on to, getting Martin Landau an Oscar. Did he win anything for that Ed Wood for doing the
Ed Wood? Rick Baker, I think he did that, and the Nutty Professor, and. He really got his acclaim with an American Werewolf in London. That's the one that really took off after that. Then he did Thriller for Michael Jackson.
Okay.
And all sorts of stuff. I think he followed King Kong with The Incredible Melting Man, which is a wacky movie.
Oh, it is indeed. That is. I had a friend.
That's kind of fun.
My friend, we the studio was closed for a while. We were doing the show out of a set in the basement, and he did an edit of he was editing the film and everything, and I know it played once on the TV station, and then I happened to watch it after. I had the same copy as the TV station had, and I was like, there was a scene in there that definitely needed to be cut, and it was bad. And you know what I'm talking about, right?
Well, I'm thinking, is it the general when there's a general in that that's like just hamming it up. I don't know, but I don't know that movie that well. I remember just laughing at this general character. He's like just totally.
Yeah, it was. That was the one.
Crazy.
That was like that set the mark for extremely being horrifying. Nothing seems scarier than The Incredible Melting Man, and it's really horrifying. And he finally just melts down. I mean, but it's really that was absolutely.
It's pretty
horrifying.
gross. It looks pretty realistic. He's definitely melting. They should have sent him to Kenosha at 21 degrees. He might have survived.
Yeah, it might have warmed things up around here. But, yeah, well, that was just interesting to know. And, Rick Baker's done so much stuff now. And I guess he was young when he did the Kong thing, but I'm sure he's getting, like, the acclaim for it now. People that are researching and going to see what he, went through to make it. And,
it's a lot of people like that movie. And, I think movies like Skull Island only help its reputation.
Yeah, maybe those they were showing it a while back. I wish I had a copy of it now. I don't know. For some reason today was my I guess it was a sense of nostalgia for that film just really hit me more than normal. I don't know.
Right. It just hit you.
And look at all the good stuff Jessica Lange has done.
Oh yeah, and you were just talking about with me a Jessica Lange.
The TV show
that she's in right now, the American Horror Story, and she is amazing.
Yeah,
I love her.
It was really ironic. I was looking for something at the video store that I hadn't seen, and so I looked, and there's American Horror Story Freak Show, season 1 with Jessica Lange that came up twice in one day. So that's really kind of interesting. I really, really liked her character in Big Fish. I really liked her in that.
I think I saw her singing some David Bowie or something.
She does in Freak Show. She sings some Bowie.
But we've got about 10 minutes left of this segment of the show, so we're going to have to catch you after the break, and then we'll be featuring some of Michael McCormack's fantastic scores for many documentaries that he's done. Great work. All right? We'll be back, Michael.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Late at night, the doctors and the TV tool give them a fright. The movies are cheesy and so's the host. Look out, honey, here's 13 ghosts. And Dr. Destruction's Crimson Theater, Bill the Monster, Eater. And Dr. Destruction's Crimson Theater, Dr. Destruction's Crimson Theater, ghoulies, come on.
Celebrating 70 years of live and local radio for Kenosha. This is AM 1050 WLIP, Kenosha. It's 1 o'clock. Now, CBS News.
It's showtime, ghoulies.
It is indeed showtime, ghoulies, here on Dr. Destruction's Big Top radio broadcast, live on AM 1050 WLIP. Get ready for a little snow. And we have Michael McCormack on the line. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good. I haven't talked more this whole past month.
No? Good.
Catching up on talking.
Yeah, that's good. You got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. But you got to continue on. You got a lot of good work to do.
I hope so. But yeah, there's some tunes I'd like to share if you got a moment.
All right, we're going to share.
We've been talking about Kong.
You want to share the Kong piece then?
Yeah, it's just kind of gives you kind of an idea. I think it's going to play like 3 different pieces, or just a few moments of 3 different pieces. And it was kind of like what I was talking about, where I started off doing kind of like the 30s Kong, then it goes to 70s, and then 2000s, just to kind of give you a taste of what's on this soundtrack. And if anyone is interested or has anyone that likes King Kong, you can buy the CD at my website, michaelmccormackmusic.com. And otherwise, if you can't remember that, just Google Long Live the King or my name, composer Michael McCormack on YouTube, and it'll pull up some videos. You should find them there. But, yeah, if you want to play a little music, that'd be great.
Okay, here we go. right.
That was actually the theme to Long Live the King. But hey.
That's what I just followed the link you sent me unless it did something wrong.
Oh, it's okay. I sent you too many probably. But if you want to play, I just sent you the 30 seconds of the 30s style if you want to go ahead and knock that out.
Okay.
Just so people know what we're talking about here.
Right. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's just play it, and we'll just all be quiet. That way I don't have to turn anything off. All right, I can totally get the feel for that right there. That's really incredible, and I like the little previous one we played. The video of it was kind of interesting because it was showing fireworks, and it's really kind of. I was thinking about 76. You know, that was our bicentennial that summer before that.
Right. Yeah, I used some art from an artist, Tom Ryan, and. He has a website, buyseeandstorm.com, and he sells all these art prints. And he did that he made that piece of art for King Kong, 76, and we kind of know each other from the Jaws documentary I worked on. And anyway, yeah, we hooked up, and we've been collaborating on some videos. He's let me use his art, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I was. It's funny because I was talking to a gal at the video store today, and I was asking her about the videos that I was going to get and whether or not good, and she seemed like she was a horror fan. So I gave her a flyer for this show. I said, well, you know, because she goes, I get off of work at midnight. You know, I go, well, perfect. You know, tune into the show, and you know, she was. We were just, I don't know, we were talking, and I was telling her about you, that you were the guest, and I gave her a flyer that said that you were the guest. And then I briefly was just mentioning about, Jaws and the mechanical shark thing and not working out. And she didn't really know anything about that. You know, I'm like, the whole thing where you're seeing the action from the shark's point of view and how effective that was and everything. And so a lot of people out there that have seen these movies really, they don't go beneath the surface that far to think about, some of the way the effects and whatnot are pulled off. So I think they always find it interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've heard people say when they talk about Jaws that the graphics are bad, and I'm like, graphics? It's 1975. It's a mechanical shark parked at the bottom of the ocean. It's not graphics.
The graphics.
The graphics. So yeah, it's crazy, but. Yeah, the shark historian was really cool. I don't know if you want to play anything from that, but
yeah, we could. You just sent me a little bit from the shark is the shark is still working. Yeah, that's but now Jaws. I mean, one of what really carries that movie. I mean, fantastic score again and the premise, but it's the actors. It's those three actors on the boat.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you are drawn in. So.
Oh yeah, one of the best things that happened out of working on that, I co-produced that and did the score, and that took us 7 years to get that out from the time we started till it came out on the Universal Blu-ray for Jaws. Which, if you don't have it, you should get it because Jaws has been restored not only for a documentary, but the movie looks fantastic. The graphics look great for the kids, but
and you know what? I mean, I looked at the video store for it because they had Jaws, but they didn't have any additional stuff on the DVD that they had. Because I was looking for I wanted to get you the one that had the documentary on it. I wanted to.
It's
see
on
it.
It's exclusively on the Blu-ray.
Oh, okay.
And the Blu-ray is really where you're going to see the difference as far as the enhancements that have been made to the picture. I mean, it looks fantastic. So, so you want to get the Blu-ray, and I've seen it on Amazon as low as like $7.99 lately. So, might want to check that out. But I got to meet, I got to talk to Roy Scheider.
Wow.
And I'm not joking. Roy Scheider was like my hero growing up as a kid. I mean, I used to like jump around on the furniture, acting like I was avoiding sharks, like I was, like him at the end of Jaws and stuff. And plus, he's made a lot, particularly in the '70s. He made some fantastic movies. And of course, when you were a kid, you saw Blue Thunder. You couldn't go wrong with that.
I remember.
But yeah, just getting to talk to him. I sent him actually my CD. It was in an early stage, and I got to know him. And yeah, since we mentioned my mom earlier, I mean, this was 12 years ago. So I mean, she hung in there for a long time. But he had cancer at the time, and I told him about my mother and how she was inspired by. My mother was sick with cancer at that time, and she told him, or I told him, what an inspiration he was to her, that he was still working and fighting it. And I'll never ever forget him saying this to me. And I told it to my mom, I don't know how many times, and she just loved it. But he said in that Roy Scheider voice, "Send your mother my love, and save some of that love for yourself." And he sounded like Chief Brody saying that to me. And he was just such a classy, sweet guy. Wow. And hopefully they're hanging out together right now, having a talk about the shark is still working or whatever. Uh-huh. But that was really cool getting to talk to the guy who was my favorite actor. Still is, really. I don't know.
Right. Well, that was a big part of that, and early Spielberg, and I don't know. What if the shark would have worked and it would have looked too awkward, because you just don't know about those things. But that was an incredible undertaking to embark upon, because shooting it on water is just like completely hard.
Yeah, I mean, in doing the score for The Shark Is Still Working, like at first, you're like, holy cow, how am I going to hold anything towards John Williams? And no way am I implying that I do, but I was thinking about how to approach it. At first I was thinking, I'm going to just pretend I'm scoring a Jaws sequel. And I got some tracks out of that, but ultimately what I discovered was I am scoring the making of Jaws. And actually, the making of Jaws, there's a lot of funny bits to it. The shark not working, people falling out of boats, and boats sinking, and might not have been funny at the time, but the stories are funny, and that's a lot of that's in our documentary. So some of the pieces are kind of comedic, and the one I sent you it's pretty short, about 1 minute and 20 seconds, but it's got kind of the style of Jaws. But it also has a bit of a comedic touch, too, but still menacing. So
yeah, I'm sure all those misfortunes weren't comedic at the time, but after the movie was a blockbuster, then they probably could laugh about it.
Right. Yeah, Richard Dreyfuss hated being in Jaws until, he saw it, and then he was like...
Well, yeah, they didn't know. None of them even thought the movie was going to get completed. They didn't even know, which I guess is common. You never know. With a film, you can put that work into it. But lo and behold, it did, and it was meant to, I guess it was in some sort of way, it was meant to be. So let's play your track. Here we go.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, that captures the feel. It really does.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, it turned out pretty good.
Yeah, I'd say.
Pretty happy with that one.
Yeah, that was really amazing. It just gives me that feel when you saw it in the theater for the first time. I just remember I'm waiting in line outside the Roosevelt Theater here in town, and it was playing. It's gonna they must be filming this in big swimming pools, or whatever conception I had going into that film. Again, thinking pretty much, okay, I'm gonna see sharks eat people,
right.
then you find out the film's got all this depth, and it's got all these layers, and there's characters, and it was just wow. You as a kid seeing it, you walked out of walked out of the movie theater like, wow, what just happened there? Because it was so good, and that's even earlier than Jaws is even earlier than the Kong movie. That was like 75 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, Jaws was summer of 75, June 1975.
I remember I did a lot of fishing that summer.
Apparently a lot of people did. We had news footage. It was kind of difficult getting all the footage licensed, but like we had stories from CBS, NBC, ABC. Just people would not get in the ocean. It was just like in the movie, people just sitting on the beach, and they wouldn't get in the water.
I bet you I bet the people in the beach business were a little unhappy.
Right, but the charter fishermen, that would have been a good year to be a charter fisherman.
Well,
because
if it got
everyone
me out,
wanted to go out and catch Jaws.
If it got me out fishing, my dad was like an avid fisherman all the time. He could catch fish when nobody could. And the funny thing about the Jaws era is like my Uncle Hank reminded me of Quint. That's who Quint reminded me of, was my Uncle Hank. So then it's like I got all this fishing legacy in the family. Of course, we're not in an ocean or nothing, but some of the coho get pretty big. And I was on the pier, and the water was really clear one day. Maybe it was not even a coho. It might have just been a really big carp. But this fish just swung under my feet, and I was like, oh, got a little bit too close, just because it was like, okay, could a shark come in through the St. Lawrence Seaway? The imagination of a kid, right? And then the other funny thing that happened in as everybody knows here in town, when it's fall, the coho, the Chinooks, they get a big beak on them. Okay, it's like a big hook they get, and they're coming back to spawn, back into shore, and then back then everybody would snag them, and they would snag the big cohos, and they'd get really big, and back then it wasn't like the nice marina. We got a nice marina now. It was like wooden little piers that went out to the boats. And I was sitting on one of those piers, and one of them fish, because they come out, they jump. Everybody goes down the lake to see these fish jump. And this is the fall after Jaws, so I'm on this pier, and this fish jumps out right over me, flies right over me through the air, got me wet, and I was like terrified for a minute there. I thought Jaws was going to get me.
There was a scene that was cut out of Spielberg's screenplay for Jaws that actually kind of sounds like what you're talking about. There's like this fisherman, and like, how the boats are kind of parked, kind of like in a parking lot. You've got two rows of boats, right?
Uh-huh.
And then at the end of it, there's a fisherman going, getting ready to go out to sea, and apparently the way the scene was going to go is as the man's getting into his boat, you started seeing all these other boats on opposite sides of the shark. You'd see a shark fin come up and coming at the guy in the boat, and you see these boats kind of drifting in the water, and he's coming. And like at the end, he jumps out of the water, totally gobbles the guy up, and of course, they couldn't get the robot shark to do that, which is why that didn't happen. It turned into the pier scene in Jaws, where you see the pier getting pulled out.
I was just going to mention the pier. Well, since we're on the pier subject, that pier in that movie is about as rickety as the one I'm talking about as well. But now that was a great, horrific scene. You're not even seeing the shark. All you're seeing is the remains of the pier coming ashore after the guy. And you're thinking something's going to happen. That really you never see the shark in that scene, But man, that works. That works so good.
Oh yeah. There's in those shots of the guy like struggling to swim, and the camera's right at his level, and the water's kind of rippling over half of the camera. I mean, that's so effective.
Well, there's the other one too that I always what I thought was amazingly effective is when Dreyfuss goes, when they're looking for the guy in the boat and he finds the head inside the sunken boat.
Right.
And then he freaks out, and then he comes up, he's all scared, but then he's talking to Brody, and he's like still half immersed in the water. It's like you feel like he's gonna get, he's gonna get it, and so many of those scenes that they work. But the one kind of funny thing, it's just funny. I mean, you could make the same funny comparison with Kong, is that they've got the Great Wall with the big door. Why did they put the big door on it? And obviously, if Kong can climb the Empire State Building, he can climb that wall. The same thing is kind of funny with Jaws. It always cracks me up. Is okay when that scene I'm talking about where they find the head in the boat. Richard Dreyfuss. He's got that big boat with all the bells and whistles on it. Why didn't he take his boat as well as Quint's when they went?
Right. I don't know.
Well, they were building a story. I understand. They
went with Quint, and Quint had to have it his way.
I suppose.
And also, I think that boat didn't have a fishing. It didn't have like a rod on it. It just had electric.
It had all the radar and everything. He
brought a lot of that with him. So yeah. I'm going to cut him some slack there. You were talking about Robert Shaw. I met Robert Shaw's sister in Martha's Vineyard when the Jaws Blu-ray came out. There was a Jaws Fest in 2012, and when we were there, we got to meet Robert Shaw's sister, and my friend Eric Hollander, who directed the documentary, he was sitting there talking to her. I swear I almost wanted to go over. I mean, she was a lovely, sweet lady, and I don't mean this in any disrespectful way, but I almost wanted to go over and tug on her hair just to make sure it wasn't Robert Shaw in disguise. I mean, she looked just like him. So in a way, I kind of feel like I got to meet Robert Shaw. I mean, she talked, she had that kind of growl in her voice, and she was a beautiful woman, but she so looked like Robert Shaw. It was amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. But what a cool film. And Robert Shaw was the character I identified the most with in that movie.
Oh yeah, I don't know about having an uncle like Quint though. That would be kind of.
Oh, he kind of had that salty side like him too.
Yeah.
He was dressed that way at least when they went fishing. And he'd always give me a hard time. My Uncle Hank always give me a hard time about everything. But it was funny, towards before he passed, and we kind of would go mow his lawn and everything, so we kind of got closer at the end there, which is nice. So
cool.
We're up against the break though, so we'll have to take this break and come back. All right. We'll be back with Michael McCormack. Oh boy, the stories, huh? Just so many.
WLIP, live and local.
We are back on Dr. Destruction's Big Top radio broadcast. We're talking to Michael McCormack, composer of several great projects, and glad to have you back on the show.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's always a blast. And we're talking off in between the breaks here, and we're like, well, all our guests lately of the last few shows it's been all musical. Like for the past now with you, past 4 shows have all been musical guests.
Oh, yeah. I believe I started it though, because I remember when I was on a while back, you were like, we don't really usually have musicians, so maybe they heard how cool you were about playing people's stuff. A lot of people, don't do that. And that's really cool that you do that.
Well, actually the other 3 guys were from some bands. We had John Hout, who was been fronting the Dead Boys for their 40th anniversary celebration of Young, Loud, and Snotty, their punk band. And then our other buddies, the the Phantoms, the
Fiendish.
Fiendish Phantoms, who we just played with last night. We were playing their stuff, and they were on. And then we had Steve Grimm, who founded a legendary band in the area called Bad Boy, was on last Friday. So,
well, I should mention, other than doing composing, I do have a rock band myself called The Invented. I post a lot of music videos on YouTube for that, and sell music on my website for it if you get a chance. But I've also been lately. I should mention I've gotten into video production. I've been doing some. I mentioned I'm from Nashville, as my accent probably lets you know. But I've been doing. I did some country music videos for a guy. He's super talented. His name's J.D. Myers. If you can remember to Google or YouTube J.D. Myers, you'll see some of my video work for him. But that's kind of out of my comfort zone because I'm not the biggest country music fan, but this guy does some really good stuff, so it's worth being heard. If anybody likes country music, I would recommend him because he's got kind of that Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, old school, smoking whiskey sound. So, you can't go wrong with that. Kind of music Quint would probably listen to.
It's funny because around the time, that Jaws, I was listening to a lot of the old school country. We go to like pubs. My parents would bring the grandparents and us kids sometimes to places where they had fish fries or Sunday afternoon things, and then always be that old country playing on the jukebox in between the sweet and the raspberries and Crocodile Rock, Good
right.
Talk about a contrast to music there, huh?
Right.
But I like that old country stuff. But now you've got your band. You sent me a link for the Invented.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we play some of that?
Sure.
We can get see how well-rounded you are. That's a good thing. All right, we're going to try this. Michael's band, The Invented.
Sometimes I need something to save me.
All right, and that was The Invented, and that's Michael McCormack's group. Very cool stuff there, Michael.
That was awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
A little bit of Bowie in there, in the vocal, I guess.
Well, I guess a lot of bands have a little bit of Bowie in them. That just shows the power of his influence.
Bowie, Roxy Music. It's cheesy to say, of course, U2. I know everybody has problems with U2 these days. Actually, their new album's not too bad. There's some good songs on it. The old modern rock, we don't have enough guys playing guitar these days.
No, I suppose. I like the guitar in that one.
Yeah, that's Greg Parker. Awesome guitarist. I'm hoping we can do some more stuff.
Reminds me of a little bit of a track that's in the movie. There's a series called The Green Man with Albert Finney in it. And it has a really cool, remind me of the guitar style a little bit was similar to that. I don't know if you probably didn't see that. It's kind of an obscure series.
I haven't been following Albert Finney, but he's a good actor.
Yeah. No, you got to see him in The Green Man, and then you got to see him in the movie called The Dresser. You'll get a whole new feeling for Albert Finney.
What was I going to say? Everything went haywire for me, and I haven't gotten to see Killing Poe yet.
Oh yeah. Well, I hope you get.
How's that doing?
I guess it's doing pretty good. It got a bunch of very good reviews from what I've heard. I don't know
pretty big residual checks.
I've yet to see that. I know it's it's coming though, right?
I know how that goes.
We'll see. They're talking about some kind of a cable release or whatnot. But yeah, Killing Poe is now available on Amazon, so you can watch it. Amazon, iTunes, Google.
It's also on all of the major gaming systems, in case you have a major gaming system, such as the Xbox, PlayStation, and such, so you can get it right through your gaming system.
Uh-huh.
So it's available on many platforms.
Knock them down.
Okay, we got one more song to play by The Invented before we're out of time. Jeez, this went by quick.
Before I fall asleep.
All right, one more song. This is called Guilty. Is this called Guilty?
Yes, I'm guilty of getting goofy when I get sleepy. So
okay.
Play a song.
We understand.
We'll just dedicate this to Al Franken.
Oh.
Living through the darkest moments. but I want to see heaven. But you said you take, don't say you take. You said you take, don't say you take. You said you take, don't say you take. You said you take, I said you
All right, good stuff from The Invented. That's a cool name. What makes you think of that one?
I had another band called The Here and Now, and then it turned out there were like 8 other Here and Nows. So
yeah.
we were like, we need to invent another name, and I just said, how about The Invented? Kind of like, because we were forced to do it, really. But, yeah.
That's what
The
happens.
Invented.
Hard to
Cool.
come up with a band name somebody isn't using. I had Die Monster Die for years, and then now I found there's all kinds of people recording using that name. So
Roger Corman will come after you for that.
Hey,
I should mention, I got a message from a friend in Chicago that's listening. First of all, she told me I better get straight with my Albert Finney viewing.
Uh-huh.
And I just remembered I saw him in Skyfall, so he was good in that. And I saw him in an old movie where he was kind of a young punk, and he was drunk. And he was like a troublemaker. It was almost
imagine
like a
that.
Rebel Without a... I just can't remember the name of that one.
Well,
but
I know
anyway,
the
my apologies to Albert Finney's
legacy.
#1 fan, Samantha Spone, who's out there listening in Chicago.
I'm a big fan of Albert Finney. Like, yeah, I don't know which one to tell you to see first. The Dresser might be. I don't know if that one's readily available, but I know the 3 episodes of The Green Man are on YouTube, and they're not even charging for them. They're just they've got them up there, and I really love him in that one. It's a great vehicle for him. I think he was great in that. He's great in Big Fish. He's probably great in everything he did.
Didn't he do a murder, the 70s murder on the Orient Express?
Yeah. Somebody had posted something about the murder on the Orient Express, and I said, I don't know if they're going to be able to top Albert Finney. And they're like, oh, I wasn't aware this was a remake. I'm like, yeah. And then he did, he's Scrooge, too. Albert Finney does a version of Scrooge. And then, of course, he's Annie, who's the rich guy.
Yeah, Daddy Warbucks.
Daddy Warbucks. So you got to check out The Green Man, though. And the Dresser kind of pushes the boundaries. But I love the Dresser. It's such a great setup because he's leading a Shakespearean theater troupe through World War II England. As they're getting bombed, they're trying to put on shows. All he has for his actors is either really young boys and really old men, because everybody else is fighting the war, and he's trying to do Shakespeare and lead this troupe. Meanwhile, he's suffering from like a dementia, and he goes in and out of in and out of various stages of mental alertness, and it's sort of sad and funny at the same time. And then he gets into the Shakespearean parts, and it is a great vehicle for Albert Finney, and he's so good in that. That movie's that's just one of my all-time favorites film-wise. It's not anything that is a horror film, except for some of the music in it, and how I just was on television back in, I want to say 84 or something like that, and I happened to come in right at a point where he's testing the lights out, and he's on a set that looks like it could be something out of a Hammer film. And the music kind of sounded like the music from the Gorgon, and I was kind of wondering, is this some kind of a horror film? So I started watching it, and I realized, quickly that it wasn't. But I was just so drawn in by that movie, and it's still one of my favorites. It's not a cheerful film, but it's so good you gotta watch it.
Cool.
But I'd start out with the Green Man.
But first on my list is Killing Poe.
What's that?
I said the first movie on my watch list is Killing Poe.
Well,
I
really will be interested to see what you think about that. So, if you see
it, I know you got screen presence.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's cool, and but there's a lot going on.
Oh, and I should mention I saw Lilith's video where she comes out of a cloud of smoke and screams.
Yeah,
that was scared my cat to death.
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, that is funny. And that does that happen a lot where your cats get scared about something on TV?
Yeah, it's weird. It's like going on, but then sometimes they'll just stare at the screen.
Yeah, well,
and,
especially if it's a black and white movie, they seem to know that they do that.
My cat loves the Texas Chainsaw movies. I find it hilarious, but he'll sit and he'll watch them, and I've never seen a cat so, intensely staring at a television screen. But he gets super into the Texas Chainsaw movies. My cat's a little scary, but...
Well, it's because he's your cat.
Right, of course.
And my funny story like that, though, is my black cat sitting in the living room next to me on the arm of the chair or something. And I'm watching one of the Creature from the Black Lagoon movies. I don't know if it was the first one or the second one, but the creature just pops out of the water and makes this, the noise that the creature makes, but it was kind of, it was a jump scare kind of a thing even back in the day. And that cat jumped up backwards 3 feet in the air. It scared her. And normally they don't even react to the TV. That's funny. That I'll never forget that the creature jumped out. I think they had the creature collection at the local library, so I could catch up on the Creature from the Black Lagoon. The first one I've seen plenty of, I know that one, but I always prefer Revenge of the Creature because they brought him into the city setting and he goes off and he's tipping cars over and everything. Much more fun, than him just in the jungle. And then, of course, the third one where they take away his gills and put a suit on him. I don't know what to think of that.
I like the original.
I remember seeing the original at a movie theater in 3D, and I was 7 years old.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That scared me to death, and the 3D was perfect.
It was good 3D in that one. I know there's a video they got that's been on social media. I don't know, maybe you've seen it. It's all the different clips of the creature knocking people over, and then he's saying something we can't say on the air, but it's so funny. It's just unbelievably funny.
I swear that film, Creature from the Black Lagoon, is the only movie I can explicitly remember seeing on a horror host program. How you watch a lot of horror host programs and you see them, but you get really into the bumps more than you do the actual movies, even though they're great films. But a lot of the times you're watching for the host. The only movie I actually can remember really seeing early on in horror host shows before I got older was Creature from the Black Lagoon. I remember watching that one over and over again on the horror host program, and I really enjoyed that movie.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I mean, horror host shows, they'd show, some really bad movies, I don't know. I can't remember, The Creature from the Depths or something
The creature from
So
the
my-
haunted sea.
That's the one I'm thinking. I remember watching that and thinking that was great when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, had the guy with the smoke and the laboratory set, and he's all creepy and funny at the same time. And I remember watching that and thinking it was great. And I remember seeing it on DVD. I was like, oh, I remember that when I was a kid. I'm going to watch that and put it in. I was like, oh. Where's
Yeah, I
the
think
horror host?
Clint Eastwood's in one of the Creature sequels, and they just paint him as like he's the laboratory flunky. Is a totally like not the kind of thing you see Clint Eastwood in.
Right. That was, I think, Return of the Creature, yeah.
But we're already out of time, so it went by quick. Great
did.
having you on again. And quickly let the audience know where they can find your music and products.
Yeah, that's michaelmccormackmusic.com. And I've got links at that website to my YouTube channel and some CDs for sale. Yeah, that's where I'm at, michaelmccormackmusic.com, and thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Yep,
Oh,
great.
thank
We'll
you.
talk. We will certainly talk again soon.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And by the
All
way,
right,
enjoy your holidays if we don't talk before that.
Yes.
All right, thanks. You guys, too.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care. Always great to have Michael on the show. It's great. What a great composer.
Oh, so much talent.
And he did offer to do a working of my theme song. So
Ooh,
But,
that'd be groovy.
now it's time for Lilith Lovecraft's